Hello. Does our Creator really care what name we call Him by? Is it true that we can only call on one particular name to be delivered by? Why is a name so important, anyways? I once was asked by an older woman, doesn't our Creator and Deliverer have many names? I then said to her, no, ma'am, He has only one name. Since Yahuah is one, He only needs one name. She then said, I bet He isn't so trivial and insecure that He won't answer us no matter what we call Him. Besides, He is a very big Elohim, and He hears all our prayers no matter what we say or what we call Him. She then went on to say, matter of fact, Pastor Joe at the Baptist Church said he will answer our prayers no matter what name we call Him by. Isn't this true? What do you think, folks? According to Proverbs 28:9, Acts 2:38, and Acts 4:12, I don't think she was right. Do you? But this brings up a good point. Does a name really matter? Does it really matter what name we call our Creator? So let's go ahead and have a real conversation about real names. A person's name is the greatest connection to their own identity and individuality. Some might say it is the most important word in the world to that person. It is the one way we can easily get someone's attention. It is a sign of courtesy and a way of recognizing them. The name you are given at birth not only matters for identifying who you are for your entire lifetime, but we can also tell a lot about the people who named you or who your parents are. In other words, the name your parents gave you can identify what kind of parents you have as well. Because different kinds of parents, of course, are in the world, and they choose different kinds of names for their children. Does this mean that names can affect personality as well? Yes, I think so. Modern day research is even suggesting that the name you are given as a child might affect the shape of your face. There's even more new evidence that a rose by any other name would not smell as sweet as a rose, after all. Social scientists believe that names produce a Dorian Gray effect, meaning names influence personality, how we're perceived, and even our physical appearance. Part of the reason is that names provide a powerful image of a person and influence people's reactions to them. As an example, have you ever guessed someone's name by how they looked? Or have you ever met someone named Sally and told them that you don't look like a Sally, you look more like a Deborah? Modern research does suggest that a girl named Isabella is less likely to study math. And according to this theory, the vast majority of people would not expect her to. But no matter where your name originated or why you were given it, you're stuck with it forever. It's not about fitting into your name, it's about defining your name with who you are. Have you ever noticed that some people never say your name? The most likely reasons for this is that they do it to hurt you or hurt your feelings because there is something about you they don't like, or perhaps they do this behavior with everyone naturally because they are narcissists. They might also not feel like they might feel that you are not worthy to be their friend. In other words, it might mean if they ignore your name, it might mean that they are not interested in you at all. But if they used to say your name, but stop saying it or don't use it anymore, it could mean that they have lost interest in you. Since it has now been proven that names have a huge impact on many different aspects of our life, then it is common sense to research the meanings and popularity of names, especially if we are about to name a baby coming into the world. So with that in mind, what aspect makes a strong name? A strong name is usually differential, meaning it should stand out from common names, as well as from bizarre names. At this point, someone out there may be wondering, how do I choose the best name for my baby or my animal or my pet? In ancient Israel and in many other cultures, names meant something or had a definition to them that suggested who your parents are or whom you're expected to become, such as a blacksmith. Think about the connotations of each name and imagine the kind of person that you associate with that particular name. Consider how you want your baby or pet to represent yourself, because you are the one naming them. Their given name by you will and does affect you directly. This is why many fathers name their sons after themselves, especially if they're in their own business. You can find inspiration anywhere you look for names, but ultimately your choice will come down to something that feels right, something that fits who you are or whom you wish your child will grow up to be or become. If this wasn't enough, they are now even suggesting that your name can and does make you more attractive to a potential mate. Interestingly, new research compiled from dating websites suggests that the shorter your name, the more attractive you may appear to potential online daters. The research data suggests that people with abbreviated names appear more approachable, friendlier, and less intimidating. Probably because diminutive names are spoken names of friendship or family ties, and they closely resemble nicknames, which is usually given to people whom we have a closer friendship or relationship with. In other words, a diminutive name gives a sense of warmth and informality. Other research has even suggested that your name can shape your identity. Keep in mind that Scripture says that your identity is not just who you are currently, but who you are called to be. When you are born, you are given an identity through your name. A name helps differentiate you from others. While every culture's naming methods differ significantly, the impact of a name for identity purposes is intercultural and cannot be denied. There is no doubt that your name says a lot about you and could dramatically influence what people think about you way before they have the time to get to know you on a more personal level, especially if you have the same name as someone that they had a negative relationship or a positive relationship with in the past. Amazingly, more new research by an economist and assistant professor at Harvard University who has taken a special interest in uniquely black names goes on to say that his research shows that certain names are even associated with lower or higher estimates of expected academic success. This research states that there's up to a 20% difference in some cases. It goes on to say that 30% of black baby girls in a given year in California have a name that no one else has, such as Lakeisha. But white baby girl names tend to be things more common like Molly and Sally. He goes on to say that out of 16 million named babies in California that year, they only had 6 black Mollys or Sallys, and not one white baby girl was named Lakeisha. Some of the blacker names tend to be things like Ayadia, Jerome, and Reginald, or Genold. These are exclusively black names. Why does this even matter? Because names matter. This particular research concerning racially preferred names matters because in-depth studies of resumes have found that people with black-sounding names are less likely to get callbacks or a scheduled job interview. In case you're still one of those type people that doubt that a name matters, especially when it comes to our livelihoods, meaning putting them down on resumes, there was an actual test performed pertaining to this type of research. In 2004, the TV show 2020 brought together a group of young black professionals who doubted that the black-sounding names on their resumes had made a difference. The group put 22 pairs of names to the test by posting identical line-for-line resumes, with the only difference being the name on each resume. Since the content of the resumes was identical, it would make sense that they'd get the same attention. However, the resumes with the white-sounding names were actually downloaded 17% more often by job recruiters than the resumes with black-sounding names. After the trial was conducted, one of the black participants was quoted as saying, "I never really knew why I didn't get called back for those interviews. I thought it was because of my job skill level or lack of experience. But I never thought it was because of my name." The first name of this participant was Trammell. Another major study on names by a profound professor of communication at the University of Pittsburgh revealed some further astonishing facts about how names affect how others perceive us. His research clearly shows how both white and black children prefer white-sounding names. The professor's research shows that he asked a group of 4 and 5-year-old children a series of questions. The children were asked to answer the questions based solely on names. For example, who is the smartest girl, Sarah or Shinakyu? Sarah, one boy answered. Again, he asked the children, who would you like to play with, Tanisha or Megan? Megan, another child abruptly said, and then asked another simple question to the children. Who took the bite out of your sandwich? Do you think it was Adam or Jamal? Another boy quickly said, Jamal. This study on names undeniably showed that we are often judged by our name. Inferring from a name only? Yes, it's been proven. So why do we discriminate based on names only? Surprisingly, researchers are starting to understand that it may not be about race either, but instead what some names signal about a person's background. In other words, a distinctively black name tells that a person typically comes from a neighborhood that has higher crime, higher poverty, lower income, and the child is more likely to have a teen mother who had her child out of wedlock. The new research plainly shows this. There's even more new research that shows names may even tell us about more than just social backgrounds. A name may affect future decisions about who we marry, the career we enter, and what neighborhood we choose to live in, or even if we choose a rural or urban setting for our dwelling place. There is a psychologist named Brett Pilham who has studied hundreds of thousands of names. And he said that he has concluded that names can significantly affect someone's life, even to the point of worthiness, pertaining to what profession one may enter. He says it's so apparent that it is probably not just chance that a man named Nathan Leeper became a high jumper. And not only that, but it's probably not a coincidence either that of all the opportunities Nathan Leeper, who was an excellent athlete, had in other sports, that high jumper was the one that he stuck with. Furthermore, his research shows that an unusual number of people named Dennis become dentists. And if you're named George, you're more likely to become a geologist. Pilham even goes on to say that names even influence that what people pick to associate with, who people pick to associate with, or even to marry. According to his research, it is very clear that people are extremely likely to marry other people with similar or familiar names, and very likely to want to befriend other people if their names resemble the name of the person making the decision. As an example, he said it's no consequence that Tom Cruise dated Penelope Cruz, or that Paris Hilton was once engaged to Paris Latsis. He goes on to say that although at first it may seem wrong to make decisions based solely on names, on second thought or at another level, it proves that people like their names and that names truly matter on a deeper level than we ever thought about before. His years of research conclusively proves that the biggest symbol of who you are is your name. And in fact, the most important thing we have in this world is our name. And it has also been proven that if you feel good about your name, it will not only cause you to feel good all over and be healthy in general, it helps you to feel good about anything that even vaguely resembles your name. That may be why the people with commonly seen names or extension of their names are seemingly happier people. Matter of fact, names are so profound that people named Georgia are disproportionately more likely than other people to move to the state of Georgia. And women with the name Virginia dream about living in Virginia. This may seem dumb and may even seem like a crazy reason to move somewhere, but at another level, why would a woman named Virginia not choose Georgia over Virginia? Or a woman named Georgia choose to move to Virginia over Georgia? Because she is constantly surrounded by reminders of something that she loves, namely herself or her name. He goes on to say that we should avoid calling or labeling someone with fraudulent titles or bad names. because names can have a negative impact on people as well. As an example, someone's cousin who has been nicknamed and called Dinky all his life is not likely to become the CEO of a major corporation. At this point, someone may be wondering if they, as future parents, should steer away from being clever when naming their children with a bizarre or unique name. Although there are a few weird names that have propelled folks to fame and fortune, such as Tiger Woods, Coco Crisp, Baby Ruth, Milton Bradley, Blue Moon Odom, and the likes, these are extremely rare occurrences. The best advice to parents is it might seem cool to give your kid a unique name such as Peace Out Thick Skull or Slade the Blade, but usually these type unique names will cause much more harm than good. In other words, there are many, many more disadvantages to doing that to your child than advantages that they will gain from it. The truth is that the more common names like Bob, Joe, Tom, David, George, Steve, Mike, Mark, Matt, John, and James have had the most influence on society overall. That's why the names researcher, Mr. Pelham, named his own son Lincoln because of the positive associations in history with Abraham and Lincoln. Also, Pelham said that his research has shown that people do associate the name Lincoln or Abraham with compassion and care. The bottom line is a person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound on earth, and it remains or maintains the same sweet sound in any language. Otherwise, it wouldn't be their name. If you want someone to not like you, just make fun of their name or call them by a different false name, and you will have quickly accomplished that goal. By examining some other real-life situations, we can further be taught or reminded of the power of using someone's true name when interacting with them. In one real-life situation, a man was in a rehab hospital and not getting particularly great personal attention until his spouse of 20 years told him that she didn't blame the nurses for avoiding him because he had not been very nice to the people who worked there. He said, "How's that, honey?" And she said, "Do you even know the names of the people who are helping you?" "No, not really. Why should I learn their names?" he said. Then she replied, "Because by learning and using their names, you might get better care." Sure enough, when he started calling them by their true names, it helped. They immediately responded with love and joy by giving him better care and comfort. He even said that they started treating him as a friend. In another situation, I once overheard someone talking to a customer service rep while I was waiting patiently in line. And I was amazed at how incredibly polite and respectful the customer was to the store's representative. And I noticed that he was using the person's name throughout the entire conversation. Needless to say, the conversation went really well for both parties as they laughed and exchanged stories. In another case, I heard a customer speaking to a waitress in a restaurant. He was obviously upset about how long it was taking for his meal to arrive. While vocalizing his displeasure to the waitress, he asked the waitress, "What is your name anyways? Lazy Susan?" Needless to say, her name wasn't Susan, and we were nearly done with our meal by the time his cold meal arrived at his table. It is also very important, if not vital, to use someone's name properly in business transactions as well. Why is it so important to use people's names properly in our business or professional lives? Basically, because of all the same reasons we just talked about. A person's name is the greatest connection to their own identity and individuality. Their name is sweet music to their ears. Some might say it is the most important word in the world to that person whom you are addressing. It has long been known among entrepreneurs that the quickest way to blow a business deal is to call someone by the wrong name or an invented name or title of sorts like pal, buddy, or boss. Using someone's true name is the one proven way we can easily get someone's attention and get them to like us. It is a sign of courtesy and a way of acknowledging that they are important, and it shows them that we recognize them and are happy to see them and be with them. When someone remembers our name after meeting us, we feel respected and more important, and so do they. It makes a positive and lasting impression on us and on them as well. To not remember a name, especially when someone has had to repeat it several times to you, is to make that person feel slighted or less important than another person. And maybe that is why you weren't remembering their real name, because of that other major deal, perhaps, or that other pretty face that you had met earlier. There are many reasons and excuses people give for not remembering names, such as, I have a bad memory, I'm a poor listener, my bad, I was not paying attention, being in self-absorption mode, or my age is showing. Perhaps you believe you are not good at learning or remembering other people's names. And this may be true, but it doesn't mean you can't improve. Here are some tips for remembering people's names. Make it a commitment or goal to treat everyone you talk equally, meaning without partiality. Treat them as you would want to be treated by calling on their true name. Suppose you start a new job with a number of new faces. What can you do to learn and remember them all? Set goals for how many people you will meet each day in order to learn their names. When someone tells you their name, listen and repeat it back to them often. Treat knowing their true name as a high priority. Practice saying their name out loud throughout the day while you imagine them standing in front of you. It is okay if at first you say, your name is Chuck, right? They will correct you if you are wrong, or if they prefer to be called something else, such as Charlie, and they will be flattered if you are right. Sometimes association with others with the same name helps. I personally use this little trick often to remember names. As an example, if someone says his name is Matt, I say, oh, that is easy to remember because I have a brother with that name. I will admit that I don't learn names easily or quickly either, but I work at it and I practice them. I'll even ask them to say their names the way they want them pronounced, and then I try to use their names every time I see them. Learn to use first names only, and use their first names every time you see them. Repeating their name in every situation helps you to remember it. And practice greeting them by their first name before you arrive if you happen to know it in advance. It is a false conception that calling someone by their first name if you don't know them is rude. The truth is that by calling on someone's first name immediately upon meeting them calms them down to approachable levels. And if you do forget someone's name after briefly meeting them, you can even go up to them later and reintroduce yourself by saying something like, hi, I'm Mark. I met you last week. Since they will generally repeat their name once you have said yours. It could save you the embarrassment of re-asking them what their name is. Using their last name should be avoided, as this approach seems cold and callous to most receivers. Unless, of course, there is a good reason for being reserved, such as in a courtroom or the military. The military uses last names mostly because it distinguishes the troops more sharply. In a combat situation, they don't want to distract every Steve on the battlefield when they call out the first name Steve, because that may get a lot of Steves killed, if you get my drift. So use first names frequently. They are more intimate and more warmly received by far. If someone is wearing a name tag, ignore the name tag and ask them personally for their name. You never know if they borrowed a coworker's name tag for some reason or are simply being incognito. For some folks, name tags help and they go busily about with obvious gestures, pointing out and giggling while reading everybody's name tags. This always seems sketchy and a little on the weird side for me. Actually, I find that name tags are a crutch. These people who insist on everybody wearing a name tag will usually keep relying on or looking at the name tag and never really make an honest attempt to learn the person's beautiful name and to get to know them on a personal level. Yes, everyone's different, and you have to figure out if name tags help or hurt you in remembering or learning other people's names, and go from there. While witnessing to someone about Yahuah or doing business over the phone, you should ask for the other party's name early. Write it down immediately and then continue to use it during the conversation. It is especially important to use their name at the beginning and at the end of a conversation with anyone, whether it is a family member, stranger, business acquaintance, friend, or foe. Believe it or not, many enemies have become friends while choosing to call each other by their first names, rather than false titles like Mr. Smarty Pants or Miss Attitude. Also, use names when emailing people. It shows that you have taken the time to make a personal connection to them. Whether it is for business or friendship purposes, it doesn't really matter. The same rules apply. For more difficult or unique sounding names, don't be afraid to ask for the proper pronunciation. Then write it down exactly as you heard them say it. You may have to spell it wrong in order to pronounce it correctly the next time you read it. Don't worry about the spelling. It's much better to pronounce their name accurately than to spell it properly. Even if you have known someone for a long time, you may want to make sure by just asking, have I been saying your name correctly all this time? This is important because by doing this, you are showing them that their name matters to you. Then after going through the trouble of understanding how to properly pronounce their name more clearly, make sure to keep pronouncing it correctly, or you may cause them to turn to wrath about it. In other words, they may say something like, how many times have I told you now? That's not the way I pronounce my name. Sometimes people, especially foreign people, get so frustrated with English speakers not pronouncing their names correctly that they have been known to adopt an English name to make it easier on others to pronounce while referring to them, especially if they are citizens from another country in our country doing business. But even in these extreme type cases, I have still found that it is important to try to refer to them by their given birth name or true name, because although they have taken the extreme step to allow an English speaker to call them by a substitute name, they are still very much in love with the name given to them by their father, especially if they have been named after their father. So since this is the name that means the most to them, You can bet that they will appreciate you taking the time to learn how to say it properly and calling them by it. If you are having a really hard time properly pronouncing their name, ask them to help you spell it out or transliterate it in English for you, since this might also help you to remember how to pronounce it, and perhaps this action could also aid you in making a new friend. Once you have accomplished pronouncing their name correctly, as he or she hears it in their own language, make sure to always use the name they have helped you learn, because it has now become a gift of sorts, and he or she has entrusted you with it to use as it was given to you. Do not ever go back to using the substitute name that they made up for strangers to use. By teaching and revealing his true name to you, he will now be seeing you as a true friend. Also, do not ever call them by a nickname either, unless they have agreed to this on their own accord, meaning they were the ones that brought it up first and gave you permission or asked you to call them something different, such as a pet name that only his closest friends and family calls him, perhaps. And that would be a very good thing for you, because this indicates that he or she is inviting you into their family or his closest circle of friends. Sometimes, if you are aware that a name has a diminutive form to it, it is good to always ask if they prefer the shortened version of their name over the longer version. As an example, let's use Michael. So, I have always liked the name Michael. Do you like to be called Michael or Mike? If he says Mike, then you may want to say something like, "Oh, I am glad you said Mike. I really like Mike." And you may also want to ask, is that what your family calls you? After meeting a person for the first or second time, and you desire to know them a little better, or maybe you may think they would make a good friend, you should go beyond the first name and ask them what their middle name is, and then find out more about them as a person. Speak to them on an interviewer type level. You may want to share with them something funny or positive about another friend or someone else you have recently met, including your other friends' names and what they look like. This shows the other person that you have a genuine interest and love for knowing others. And then share something funny or personal about yourself with them. This will help you to better connect with them on a human level. Remember, people want to be treated as human beings, not objects or numbers. Using their name is the fastest and most reliable way of building rapport and creating a good first impression that will last for years, maybe even a lifetime. Everyone has a name, and they love their real name more than any other name you could come up with calling them. Use their true given birth name to better connect to them. I can safely promise you that if you do this, you will notice a difference in your relationships and perhaps how many friends you have. So, what does all this name business we just discussed have to do with us calling our Creator by only one name or His real true name? And the answer to that is that our Creator has a name just like we do, that He has placed above all other names. So this would indicate that He loves His name just as much as we love our own name, and probably much, much, much more. The sad truth is that our Creator's name has been hidden and removed from the Scripture nearly 7,000 times. They have replaced his name with substitute names in order to keep us from calling on the true name of our Creator and Deliverer. Why? Why have they done this? Because they like hearing the name of their false made up mighty ones better than his true Hebrew name. In fact, if we stop any Christian coming out of any church and ask them the haunting question found in Proverbs 34, who has gone up to the heavens and come down? Who has gathered the wind in his fists? Who has bound the waters in a robe? Who established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if you know it? Most assuredly, we will get the same exact answer from all or any of them. And that is that the Father's name is God or Lord in caps, or Jehovah. And his son's name is God or Lord in lowercase, or Jesus. I guess they didn't like him coming in his father's name, so they chose to make him a subordinate. The truth is that these two names are substituted Greco-Latin names. They are not the real name of our Creator and Deliverer. The other expressions that they love so much to use are not names at all, but titles. In fact, the name Jehovah first appeared in Christianity during the 15th century. It was introduced or injected by a man named Petros Galatinus. This all started with Greco-Latin translators having language problems transliterating the Creator's true name into the Greek and Latin alphabet, or using the Greek and Latin alphabet. They first came up with IESV in Latin and IAQUE in Greek. Then it just mutated into something unrecognizable after the letter J was invented or introduced into the English language in the same century. The name Jesus is a mutation that followed suit in the 17th century, but actually didn't appear in the original 1611 King James Version. It actually appeared several versions later. So let's quickly investigate the real name of the Father and Son. The name of our Creator is a Hebrew name, and it consists of 4 vowels, which are Yod, He, U, He. These vowels, when spoken or pronounced as short vowels in English, can easily be heard as Yah, U, Ah. The Son came in his Father's name, so they share the first 3 letters in their name, or the diminutive form of their name, which is Yod, He, U, which is pronounced Yah, and it means I am. The full name of the Son is Yod, He, U, Shin, Ayin. This is pronounced Yah, U, Shah, which is simply another compound name for Yahuah, which means I am your deliverer. The suffix modifier added to the end of his name, Shah, means saves, salvation, or deliverer, or deliverance. Look, the truth is, expressions or titles like God, Lord, Adoni, Hashim, Almighty, Al Shaddai, Emmanuel, and Creator are not personal names. They are not pronouns or proper names at all. Everyone who is defending the use of these titles or expressions, especially the pagan ones, love to use the excuse that we do not speak Hebrew, we speak English. And they teach the lie that these titles or expressions are translations of his name into English. This is falsehood. The truth is that names cannot be translated. They can only be transliterated in the target language in a way that retains the same sound or sounds and full pronunciation as it did in the original language. I personally wish people would just stop with all the lying. These titles or words are not even original English words anyway. So how are they being said in English? The truth is, they are not being said in English. They are borrowed words from other languages and countries. An example is the word God. This word or title has its origins from the Norsemen and was adopted into Christendom in the 6th century. And the tetragrammaton that consists of 4 vowels is YHUH. It is not YHWH. It does not contain a W, as false teachers would lead you to believe, because the W is another hybrid or mutable letter devised by combining 2 V's late in the 13th century. Originally, the letter V and later W was invented to make the Hebrew sound oo, with 2 O's, oo, which is found in Yahuah's true name, Yahuah. Yes, that is correct. They are supposed to sound like ooh. And believe it or not, the IE found in the Greek expression Jesus or Jesus and the AIH in Isaiah is supposed to sound like Yah. Furthermore, the Jehovah means wicked or ruin in Hebrew and has nothing in common with Yahuah. In other words, when someone is saying Jehovah, they are essentially saying Yah, he is ruin, or Yah, he is wicked. In fact, saying Jehovah actually removes the deep throat sound at the end of his name. This growl type sound of air, blast of air being released deep in the back of the throat at the end of his name, represents the breath of life that is contained in Yahuah's life-given name. Basically then, by substituting or changing his real name, they have removed the breath of life from his name that made us a living spirit. Yahuah's real name actually means which was and which is to come. This definition not only implies that he lives in all 3 tenses, but he created them and therefore is in them to hold them together. Now let's turn our attention to the Son's name, Yahusha. In Hebrew, it means Yah is your deliverer. The name they have substituted for the Son is another hybrid mutated name that has a Greek accent. In other words, it is well known that any Greek name ending in Zeus, and Zeus are phonetic pronunciations for Zeus. And the final S at the end of the word represents a masculine quality in the Greek. Some examples are Parnassus, Dionysus, Odysseus, Jesus, Pegasus, Tarsus, etc., etc., etc. They claim his name is translated from Greek into an English version. And so they call the Hebrew Mashiach Jesus. Not only is this name screaming foul, but they are not even pronouncing Jesus correctly, or J-E-S-U-S correctly. J-E-S-U-S is not even close to the proper way of pronouncing the Greek name. We can ask any Greek or Spanish-speaking person, because Jesus is a very popular name in Mexico, and it's used by many parents when naming baby boys. A lot of Spanish people are named J-E-S-U-S because they are Spanish descendants who came from the Catholics. And they will tell you it is pronounced Jesus, or Jesus, not Jesus. So if we really think about it, why are they not pronouncing this Greek name properly? Or why are they refusing to pronounce their substitute, hand-picked substitute name properly anyways? Sheepishly, the false teachers are insisting we pronounce the Greek name Jesus as Jesus instead of Jesus like it really sounds. Why are they doing this? Well, at first this may seem odd and hard to understand, but after thinking about it a little harder, the answer becomes quite simple. They are trying to hide the fact that the name is obviously Greek, and as every Greek and Spanish Catholic member knows, it is plainly pronounced as Jesus or Hail Zeus. They absolutely know this. The religious teachers know this, folks, but they refuse to tell the truth about it to their congregations. Instead, they continue to masquerade it like everything else they practice with pagan origins by saying Jesus is how we say it in English. They hope you will never find out the truth. Pretty tricky teachers, right? These Christians. Lately, the false teachers have been scrambling to conceal the true name, even further since the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls unveiled the true name. So they began circulating the name Yahuah around as the true name and spreading the fake news or propaganda that not even the Hebrew roots movement can agree on how to pronounce his real name. So that means we should not be using it at all. So just call him by the English translation, Jesus. It's more accurate anyways. But in reality, this is simply not true, and it is another weak, vain attempt to make people forget the true name of our deliverer. The real name of our Messiah is Yahushua. All the Hebrew roots people agree with that. And Yeshua or Yeshua is not his name. It is not a name. Yeshua is not a name, but it is an identifier as to what he will be known as or what he did, the same as Emmanuel is. Yeshua is more of a title or role, and aids as a suffix modifier, the same as all the other compound names of Yahuah do and are. Basically, Yeshua means he saves. Again, this is not his name. His one true name or real name is Yahusha, which means Yah, your deliverer. Yahuah said he would not give another his esteem, so he came in his own name, but called the incarnation or Lamb Son, so that we would believe. The Son or incarnation would be born of a virgin woman and soon after would shed his own blood and die for the remission of sins for many. Yahuah, who is a spirit and dwelling in unapproachable light, of course, did not die. He simply shed his skin or disrobed himself. And after 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, he raised his own body back up from the dead. Yahuah was in Mashiach, recounseling the world back to himself. Furthermore, one should be careful with the expression or title Yeshua because it closely resembles the acronym YESHU, which stands for Yamak Shamo Yu Zikro, which in Hebrew means may his name be blotted out. Even worse, if we reverse transliterate the substitute name Jesus, it doesn't carry any meaning in Hebrew at all, like all other true Hebrew names do. But if we stretch our imagination slightly and drop or separate the GE from the SUS and pronounce it as the sound Zeus in Hebrew, it could mean horse or the horse or horseman. In Latin, Zeus, or if you drop the S on the end that makes it masculine to sui, it carries the meaning of pig or the pig or pig man. So at this point, I suppose we are all wondering, what in the world do the teachers all have against the true or real Hebrew name of our Creator and Deliverer? There's no denying that tradition has a lot to do with it, but beyond that, all I know is what Scripture says, that the world is hatred toward Yahuah. And if you are part of the world or love the world, you are or have become an enemy of Yahuah. So that may more clearly explain why they do not like saying his real name. Possibly their father is the father of lies, not the father of light, who has no lie or darkness in him. The bottom line here, folks, is that Yahuah loves his name and loves to hear us call on it. So we must learn to pronounce it correctly and call upon it frequently with the utmost reverence, especially if we are seeking forgiveness or want to be his friend or bride. What say you? Don't you think we should be calling our husband by his real name? Not the name of another lover or spirit? Don't forget, Yahushua came in his Father's name, Yah. We hear the name of the Father every time we say hallelujah. This means praise you, Yah. We're going to have to stop the video here, folks. I'm going to have to publish a part 2. I believe this topic about names is vitally important, and I hope every single person that watches this part 1 goes over and watches part 2 and completes this lesson, because it's vitally important. We all need to start calling on the true or real name of our Creator and Deliverer, Yahuah and Yahusha, in the role of our Deliverer. So thank you for watching part 1, and I'll see you over on part 2 on the Sparking You is Yah channel. Look for it, part 2. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay in love with Yahusha. So long.